If you have tried making something in 3D and adding a texture to it, you may have come across the big problem of creating a shader. Now, what is a shader and where do we use it? According to Ben Cloward, a shader is a code that helps us control the color of each pixel of our screen, but in the present things are a little different, so how can we use them now? Well, we can make glass and mist materials, we can apply textures to 3D objects, create an ocean, and many other things that will fill our environments and let us tell the story we want in our games. To make it more clear, shaders help us control the material properties of our 3D objects and world. To make our texture work, we need to use these shaders to implement them into the environments or objects we are creating, and that is why it is so important for you as a material artist to know this. In most game engines, they are built-in shader editors, and you might be familiar with this concept. If you have worked with Unreal Engine, you have probably seen this in their editor. And yes, this looks quite intimidating, especially when you're starting out and you find names and concepts like float values, lerps, clamps, and more. But today I'm going to guide you on how to create your first material and understanding the basics of Unreal Engine 505 shader creation. The shader editor from Epic Games is a node-based one, just like Substance Designer. That means we have code lines compressed into small boxes that have a use. These boxes have inputs and outputs. When the information comes through them, they apply the code to it and provide you with a new result. Some nodes don't have an input. This is because they are providing certain information that you can use to get specific outcomes. A great example is the float value, or as we know it inside Unreal Engine, the constant node. For the material we have to create today, we have to know what floats are, how to get our textures inside Unreal Engine, and how to export parameters to create what we call material instances. Now let's get to it. So I am now inside Unreal Engine, yes, and as you can see, I'm using one of their templates, the one for I think it was the first person gameplay. Yes, so this is kind of a template they give you for you to kind of start out easily and make your own games or explore. We have these cubes here, these blue cubes. And we are going to try to change the color of these cubes and other properties from them, going from plastic, metal, glass, or even textures we have made ourselves in Substance Designer. And the idea is to learn and train ourselves into the creation of shaders. Yes, so let's get to it. First, what I'm going to go is I'm going to go to the developer folder. This is a folder that is only going to be visible to you in case if you export this in. I'm going to get into the user folder and I'm going to create two folders. I'm going to right click and go to new folder and set this to my shaders. Yes, I can also click on the add button and go to new folder and create my folder for my textures. Yes, and in here I'm going to first I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to do medieval roof tile. Roofed, I'm going to just put. And as you can see, the space is not allowed. So what you have to do is you have to delete that and create an underscore again. You can use any texture from Fab. There might be a difference, so I might have to do a different video on that, more specialized into photoscan materials. But for the moment, I'm going to use the medieval roof tile from my latest tutorial. So in order to import your textures, you just need to drag your maps from your Windows editor to your folder. Yes, and that's it. Now, we're not going to use them yet. We're going to go back to my shaders and we're going to create our main shader. So we're going to right click here. We have the material section and we're going to use this one. And what we're going to do this here for then is going to be my first shader. Yeah, so I'm going to create my first shader and I'm going to go in. And there's going to be a new window popping out here. And as you can see, this is quite different to other kinds of Unreal Engine editors you might have seen online, and this is because it's kind of actualized. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. This is quite similar to Substance Designer. The only thing is that you don't have a 2D viewport. Yeah, you have your 3D viewport where you have different meshes to use. You have the cylinder, the sphere, plane, cube, and this one, it sets a preview mesh that you might have selected. Yes, if you don't have it, it's going to give you that error. Now that we have this, what's going to happen is we need to first figure out where our outputs, and our outputs are in this huge node. Each of these on a specific inputs we have here for this node are the actually things that are being taken into our game engine and they're happening in the background. So we don't see what's going on in the background, but this is information we're gonna give the engine to process in order to create our material. If you click into a node, you're gonna see that there's gonna be a yellow outline, and to your left you're gonna have the details tab, and it's gonna allow you to change a lot of things. Set translucency, override nanite, you can make your material to be two-sided, you can change the surface to a light function, a volume, a post-processing. Yes, you can make it to be a decal. There can be a lot of things you can do and explore with it. It really depends on what you want to do. So let's start with constant values. To create a constant, right click on the graph and type constant. And you're gonna see there are 4 constants in here. We're gonna see each of them. This is a constant value, and there's a shortcut for this. You can press 1 on your keyboard and left click, and it's gonna create your constant. And you can do this for the 4 of the constant values you have. If I do 2 and click, this is my constant 2. This is my 3 and this is my 4, and I'm following just the keyboard lines. So let's talk about this one. The constant value works exactly like grayscale information. It's just a single value that you are going to be using to make different things. In this case, the single value can be used, for example, to choose our roughness. Why? Roughness, remember that roughness is grayscale information. A constant value is also grayscale information. So if we put this into our roughness, you're going to see that this one is going to start to be really shiny because the value we are setting is set to 0. You can change the value from here to the left on your detail panel, or you can just go ahead and change it from here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep that in there. Maybe change this to 0.5. Yeah, I just want to make it kind of like that. Then you have the other vectors. So you have the vector 2. Yes, this has 2 vectors. This is really good for UV layout. Then you have vector 3. This is where you start to create colors. And then you have your vector 4, where you not only have colors, but you also have an alpha. Yes, today we're gonna focus in vector 1 and 3. Being the constant value and our vector. So what we are going to do to start is we're going to place this into our base color and this into our roughness. Yes, and we should have a shape like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. Yeah, wait for this to save, and I'm going to make this smaller, and I'm going to drop my shader into this box. And as you can see, I have changed the properties of this. Now my box is black and it's way more shiny than the other boxes. But this is not the only thing I want to do. I want to do more. So I'm gonna do something really simple. I want to change the color. Now the problem here is that I see that I've changed this to color red, but the color hasn't changed at all, and that's because I didn't change the value. So every time you do this, remember to change your value to the top. That way you know you have the right color you want to. So now if I save again, now this box is gonna be red. Now I wish there was a way to make this in real time, and in fact there is, and that's called material instancing. So material instancing is what we do when we create an instance of this material, and we can change that material by using the parameters that we have exposed. So let's get back to our shader. So we have these 2 values right now. Yeah, we have our base color and our roughness. That's the only thing we are using right now, and later we're gonna do a more advanced material, don't worry. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to expose these parameters. So the first thing I'm going to do, yes, is I'm going to convert these to parameter. Yes, I'm going to name this as base color. Yeah, then I'm going to go here and I'm going to convert to parameter and set this to roughness. Yeah, now that I have these 2, I have to save them. Now, how can we use these parameters in our material editor? Well, we need to go to my first material, my father material, and I'm going to create a material instance. And I'm going to name this my first underscore my. My stands for material instance. Yeah. Now that I have my material instance, I have to do something. I need to double click, and this is what is going to open. And you're gonna have here 2 things: the global scalar parameter values. Now it's a little bit hard or uncomfortable to have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go back to my shader, and I'm gonna come here to any of these 2 nodes. Yes, and in here, in the material expression part, you're gonna have these 3 parts: that is group, sort priority, and description. And I'm gonna create a group by setting this here to material. I'm gonna set match properties. Yeah, and I'm gonna set the roughness to 2. Then I'm gonna go to my base color, choose the same group, and change this to 1. Yep. So now that I have this, I can also click this as a default value being black. I don't want my default value to be black. I want my default value to be white. So I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna come here, and you see that now my cube is white and my properties are inside the same group. And if I click on this, yes, these 2 boxes, now I can change this in real time. If I place this into my box, sorry, I forgot about that. That's really important. Your 3D object needs to have exactly the same material instance you're working on. And as you can see, I can go around with it. I can change color, make it lighter, darker. Yes, I can really play with it as much as I want, and it's gonna work as intended. Yeah. Now, how can we make this something usable for the material we want to create? So let's create our master material shader. And for this, we're gonna create my material, MA. Yes, that stands for master material. So before I'm gonna open this first. Yes, you can see that we have starting all over from scratch. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my texture, medieval rooftop, and I'm gonna drop only the images I need. That being ambient occlusion, base color, roughness, and normal. We're not gonna take the height nor the metallic. Yes, and there's a reason for that, and let me explain before I move forward. So first I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna go back to my shaders. So if I go to my first shader, you're gonna see that in here I have, yes, my metallic section. And of course, I can choose this to be metallic or not. Right now it's at 0, that means it's not metallic. Now, when you're working with metallic surfaces, it's important that you always use a value of 0 or 1. That means you can't have any value between 0 and 1. Because a material is or metallic or not metallic, yeah? You don't have something in the middle. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna create 2 constant values, set the second one to 1, and you are gonna create a switch. Yes, but you're gonna use a static switch parameter, this one. It's under the parameter section. So you are gonna set this as metallic, and if this is true, you're gonna set the value to 1. If this is false, you're gonna set the value to 0. And as a default value, it's gonna be 0. That means the surface is gonna be null metallic. So now I need to group this into the material properties and set this to free and save this. Now if I go back and I open my first material instance, I go here and I set this to metallic, and my material will change and it's going to be metallic, see? And one advantage I forgot to mention is that I go to my first shader, yes, that is not a material instance, and create other material instance. So I can do test to my, yes, and drop this to another box, and this box made it of another color, completely different and random color. You can go something like this, more like dark, and change the darkness to be super shiny or not that shiny. We can go here, change this to be around 0, just to be super shiny, and that's gonna work. And of course this is gonna need an update after we finish, so it saves. So my first shader is done. Yes, we have these 2 really nice materials here, just the metallic surface and so on. Now we need to go and focus on making the other material. So how are we gonna do this? So first, we have our texture here. We could easily use this as usual. We are gonna take the RGB and set it into each of these maps. So inputs, sorry. So this is the base color. So I'm gonna input the base color here. Yeah, this is gonna load. There we go. Then we don't need to put the metallic. This is the roughness. Roughness should go here. Then here we have the normal. And here we have the ambient occlusion. So I'm gonna pull all of these just like this. There we go. Perfect. And now I'm gonna save this. It's gonna take a little bit of time to save. And I'm gonna grab this one and drop this here. And as you can see, this is working. But maybe this is not the shape we want. So I'm gonna import here, yes, a new shape, a basic shape that is gonna be a sphere. Yeah. So I'm gonna pull the sphere around here, and I'm gonna drop this in here. Yeah, as you can see, the sphere is right here. Let's just make it bigger, maybe. The sphere contains the material that we're working on, but there's a small issue with this material. Well, several issues actually. I don't like the roughness. Yeah, I don't like tiling of this. I don't like anything of this. Some of these things may be due to the sphere being kind of like, you know, the UVs are not really that nice, but that doesn't matter. We can even use other shapes here, like this can go with a cylinder. Yeah, pull it out. Apply this. You see, it's kind of like the UVs thing, but on the top, it's actually kind of looking good. So we're gonna go to this sphere here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our material, and we need to fix this. We need to be able to tile our material. So what are we going to do? We're gonna right click here and do write coordinates, and you're gonna have this one, the texture coordinate node. This allows you to take the coordinates of your UVs and your 3D object to control your UVs, and you can see that in here you have the U and B tiling 1 to 1. So you're gonna plug this into all of your inputs of the UVs. Yeah, each texture coordinate has different inputs and outputs. The first inputs are UVs, texture, and this is for midmaps that we're not gonna be using. Then you can use the RGB or use separate different channels from that image. Right now we're gonna use the UVs because that's the only thing we can change. So if I do this by 2 and this by 2, you're gonna see that the material is going to tile. That's what we want to happen. Now, the problem is that we can't tile this from outside. So how can we do this to happen? So the texture coordinate is actually giving us two values into one line of information, that is this one. We can change that. How? We can multiply this information. Yes, we can. If you press M and left click, it's going to create your multiply, and we can multiply this information by a constant value. So if we multiply this value by the value we have here, we are supposed to get a specific tiling. So if I set this to 1, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can really go down on this to keep pushing this. Yeah, as you can see. Now, we need to expose this, but we might do it later. So first, we are going to change some extra things before we move forward, and some of those things are we need to change the roughness. I really don't like the roughness of our material. I don't like it. So what we are going to do is we are going to change this. By how? First, we're going to preview our node. That way we can see the actual stage of our map, and you can see in what are the values of our grayscale information. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a power. Yeah, and I connect the power here, and I'm going to create a constant value and pull this here, and I'm going to start previewing this node to see what the result is. And as you can see, with 0 we have almost no information. 0.4 make the information a little bit kind of like less contrasty. Yes, and let me start previewing node. Yeah, this is kind of a little what we want. We want it to stop being that much. Yeah, so I'm going to stop previewing the node. I'm going to input this here. Yes, and now you can see the material is not shining that much. If you want to know what this node does, if you put your mouse on top of this node, it's going to tell you what it does. So power returns the base value raised to the power of exponent. Base value must be positive. Values less than 0 will be clamped. That means that if you have something around 0, it's not going to make any sense. If you have something on top of 0, it's going to be raised to the power of the exponent. Yes, that is this one here. This is a great way to actually remove some of that roughness and make it more usable for the material you are creating. So now if I save this here, yes, and go back, you're gonna see that my material is not that shiny, but the tiling keeps being the same, and I need to fix this. And in order to do that, we need to start exposing parameters. But as we are here, I might as well do some extra changes to keep this procedural and me being able to actually keep using this main shader to add different materials to my scene. Right now, we are using just one material, that is this tile. But when you're making a scene, you're gonna have 5, 10, 20 materials maybe. So you need one master material that is gonna be allowing you to create several material instances like the ones we have with the metal and the pink color, and use those to create new materials and apply it to your scene and change the parameters as well. So we are gonna go into it. So in order to do this, we need to do two things. First, we need to expose these texture samples. We need to allow our artists, yes, or technical artists, to import the textures we need in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the first one, that is the base color. We're going to do right click and convert to parameter. And we're going to name this as base color. Yeah. Then we're going to go here and do the same. We're going to convert to parameter, and we're going to do roughness. This one should be convert to parameter and do normal. There we go. And we're gonna convert to parameter as well and set this to AO. Yeah, but we need to make a group for each of them. So we're gonna go here, do BC. Oh, BCX no. We don't like, but I don't know what BC is. BC, this is gonna be the first one in the BC because we're gonna add more things later. This one is gonna be R for roughness, and again it's gonna be the first one. This is gonna be N for normal. Again, first one. And this is gonna be again AO, just because first. So now we have all our groups, we have exposed all of this, and we might need to expose more. So we are gonna go here and we're gonna expose our tiling, and we convert this to parameters, set it to tiling, and for the group name, we're gonna say material properties. Yeah, that's the first thing we're gonna do, material properties, just to save it. We're gonna save this in here, and before moving forward, we're gonna come here and convert this constant value to a parameter, and I'm gonna set this to roughness intensity. Yep, switch this part and set this to 2 and set this to roughness group. Yeah, there we go. So now if I save this, go back and create material instance. Yes, I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna place this in here. Yes, and now I can change all of this. Yeah, see? Now if I go to BC, I can do this. Material properties. Yeah, I can change this styling. See how can I change it now? Can apply it to be more specific to the material I want. Yeah, I'm gonna set it to 2. Now I'm gonna go to my roughness, and I'm gonna make my roughness less intense. Yeah, however I want to. See that, make it more or less contrasty, and it still looks nice. But we might want to make some changes here. Let's do some other changes. Yeah. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add some values or information that we have on our materials, but they might not be quite visible right now. Yeah. So we're gonna go here, and what we are going to do is we're gonna add a tint. So we're gonna use our vector free. Yes, remember free, left click, and you create it, to add a specific color to our material. And in order to do this, I'm gonna use a multiply. So I'm gonna multiply this information, but this information, and see what the result is. Right now, the result is black because we don't have any information. But if I pull this up, set this here, you're gonna see that the information comes back to what it was before, just the base color. By doing this, now you can control this to kind of like add a little bit of a tint on top. Now I'm gonna leave this to be kind of like bluish, kind of, to make it more cold. And I'm gonna convert to parameter and set this to color tint. There we go. Group is gonna be base color. This is gonna be 1. Yeah. Also, another thing, you can add numbers next to your name of the group. Yes, in order to change the order. So now, for example, if I go here and look for this, you're gonna see that now base color is gonna be on the top, and it's gonna have its own group, 01 BC. Yeah, this is a nice trick. I think there was another way of organizing them. Yeah, but in this case, this is the one I'm using. So now that we have this, we need to implement it into our material. Yeah. Just start previewing the node, and we are gonna do something else. So I'm gonna create a dot here, and I'm gonna use this dot, yeah, in here with the same technique as we were using before. We're gonna use a multiply. Why? Because I want to add, yes, a little bit of that shadow on top. This is